Hey, this is Mark Swartz from MTC Media with your 3 to May 2 podcast, everything about the NBA. And of course, we're going to start out with the whole thing with Udoka and LeBron James and the exchange of words and Udoka being kicked out of the game. First and foremost, Udoka shouldn't be talking to anyone. He's lucky to be in this league. He's lucky that Houston was desperate enough to take him when they could have looked elsewhere. As far as using the term boy and all this sort of stuff, truth of the matter is, and this is kind of old schoolish, but why are we talking to other players? If you're a coach, why you don't talk down, you don't talk down the court, so you don't talk towards the other bench, you don't talk to other players. I mean, that's been, man, that has been an unwritten rule for as long as unwritten rules have happened in the NBA. So Udoka, just be quiet, bro. Just coach. Be fortunate that you're still in the NBA. Be fortunate that someone took you and gave you a second chance after what happened in Boston. Because workplace harassment is not something to trifle at. Whether it's in sports, whether it's in corporate America, whether it's in a factory, whether it's in a unit protected job, doesn't matter. Harassment is something that cannot continue to happen. So just be quiet and coach. All right, keep your name out the ink. Just keep your name out of the ink. So we are to the semifinals of the in-season tournament. Something that a lot of NBA detractors and some people who cover the NBA said was going to be a complete and utter disaster that no one cared about, which they have been 1,000% wrong. The NBA's in-season tournament has been a smashing success, no matter how you cut it. Now, earlier there was several publications a couple weeks ago that had published the ratings, and the ratings were up from this time last year. But I think what it's going to do is, and this has a lot to do with popularity, it's going to capture the gambling community. Because one of the things that the gambling community did not see until the last time out was this idea of running up the score so you could win the point differential. The idea of winning games in this thing to come on, and how you're going to play your starters and whether you're going to pull your starters out, which also impacts the prop bets and everything to go with betting. This in-season tournament has enhanced, and on top of that, interest. Last night there was a lot of interest in those games with the Knicks and the Bucks and the Lakers and the Suns, including the fact that people thought that the Lakers were granted a timeout that they shouldn't have had on a loose ball. All these things impact. So now we're to the semifinals. We have the Indiana Pacers, who had upset the Boston Celtics. We have the Pacers against the Bucks. We have the Pelicans against the Lakers. The Pelicans and Lakers. Oh, this is the time for Ingram to remind the Lakers that they shouldn't have traded him in a high visibility game, not just a one game out of 12 on the slate that night, a high visibility game. Adam Silver had said before that they're going to take a look at this, and that going forward, things will be tweaked because they're learning a lot with the in-season tournament this year. They're learning a lot. I would doubt that it looks the same next year. I think they're going to try to have enhancements, make it better, make it more fan-friendly. The NBA was willing for this in the first year to be a failure so they could learn and move on. And what they have found out is far from being a failure. And the idea of tweaking something that has already garnered interest that a lot of the naysayers said it wouldn't garnish is certainly in a feather of a cap of Adam Silver. Now, speaking of the commissioner, he spoke recently about expansion. And the NBA looking to add a couple more franchises. I don't think it's a bad idea. Usually I would say it's an awful idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. And I'll tell you why I don't think it's a bad idea. It's not a bad idea because they have labor peace as of when I'm speaking until 2030. They're going to have a new media contract put into place after, I believe it's next season, when the current media contract ends. So you're going to probably try to sell the in-season tournament as a separate package, and then you'll have your ESPN, TNT, ABC stuff, with your major networks. And then I'm sure there's also going to be some sort of streaming package that someone will try to jump in there, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Apple, someone will try to jump in there on a streaming package. So the NBA is looking for with an influx of money. On top of that, the international talent is so freaking good. And we have so much basketball talent globally that the idea of adding 2 teams is not going to water down the NBA. This is not the 80s and the 90s where NBA talent was limited. And let's just call it what it is. It was limited. Yes, you had superstars, but when you started getting to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, especially 8 through 12, the league 8 through 12 is a million times better than it was then. And it's not even debatable. It's not debatable. Don't come here talk about, oh, no, it is. And part of it is because basketball is better worldwide. And by the way, the next influx of internationals are going to come from NBA Africa. So, Silver is doing something that the league is ready for. And I'm not saying the league in the past has always been ready for expansion when they expanded, to give the owners a nice little check because of expansion fees. But this time around, the expansion coincides with the worldwide talent. And I do believe that Silver has said about 30% of players in the NBA are international players. And we're not talking about the international players that are, stash and dashes because they're under other contracts. We're not talking about guys who are Americans who are playing overseas because there is no spots. We're not even talking about guys who are in G League who right now are looking for call-ups, but there's no spots for call-ups. So I think this is one of the few times I believe the NBA is right for expansion. So thank you for joining me for this episode of 3 to Make 2 podcast. This is Marcus Washington with MTC Media.